Okay, so we're going to Sumira, and I met Sumira about 4 years back through her father. His name was Prem Sethi. With deep regard to him, he's not there anymore in this world. Whenever I met him, I felt as if I met my father. And he would often very lovingly say, Meri ek aur beti hai. And yeah, it was very sad the way he left the planet Earth. And what something very strange happened about a week back, less than a week back. So I was to do this program, and I had called two guests, Sheetal Kapoor and Rote. And in my mind, Sumara was not there anywhere. I was sleeping, and I felt as if her father is telling me, "Tu meri beti ko bhul gayi? Kaise bhul gayi? And uska to school khul raha hai. Uska ye school dekh." And we are all standing in the corridor of the school, and her son is standing behind the curtain, and I'm giving him a big hug and a kiss. I'm very fond of her son. And and then she's standing over there and smiling, and I'm looking at Sumira, but Sumira has got this funny colored hair. She's got green and blue hair. And believe me, that blue and green color didn't leave me. I got up in the morning and I thought that it's okay if I don't give her a call. But the whole day till I did not give her a call, my mind kept doing this: give her a call, give her a call, give her a call. And I was connecting to her for the first time after her father had expired. So I called her up, I spoke to her, and I said, "This is what I saw." And we laughed with each other. And then she sent me a photograph. Guess what? The color of her nails was exactly the color that I had seen. I knew she had to be on the show. And she said, "What will I talk about?" I said, "Jo tera dil kare." And what she's speaking today is from her heart about how she is doing schooling for her son. And I remember in the evening today, she said, "मैं ये नहीं बोलूँगी, वो नहीं बोलूँगी, वो नहीं बोलूँगी." मैं कहा, तेरा मेरा शो नहीं है, आपका है. Just share what you are doing. And this is about empowering people. So go ahead, Sumira. Thank you so much for being my friend. Thank you so much for sharing your heart out with me always. And thank you today for accepting my invite. Just see if you're unmuted and then start talking. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I am unmuted. Thank you so much, Anu. And truly said, I think Dad always considered you like the third daughter. We two sisters, and I always said, Anu, meri beti hai. And I'm not surprised that he's been knocking your head and asking you to connect with me. We haven't spoken, have we?
Yes.
So thank you for inviting me, Anu. It's so lovely to connect with you after almost a year today, and it felt good. The nail polish was definitely spooky, but it felt good. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I'm here to speak about alternative education, and when Anu and I was speaking in the evening, and she said even my daughter has no idea about alternative education. So let me just start by saying this: that education today is more about parents than it is about children, and these are completely personally my views. That I very rarely meet parents who actually discuss the interest of their child, as in the real interest of their child, and they're okay with their children not acing in three sports and debates and bringing home straight A's. Uh, I've been saying this for a very very long time, and I'm so glad to see people on different videos sharing the same. The other day, I shared a gentleman's video who said quite much the same, saying that the Indian education really was designed by the Britishers, to create clerks and nothing more than that. So where people would take orders, not ask questions, and that's it. That was their requirement. That's what they got. Are we being thankless to the Britishers who got us the education system? I don't think so. We had an education system when before they invaded our land, a system which was a very child-centric, a very practical education system where we worked on the strengths of every child. The Gurukul that I'm talking about, where everybody was a part of it. So they changed the system to rote learning because that's what they wanted. The most intelligent guy who could rote learn everything, and that's what they did. They changed our system. So today our schools follow absolutely the rote learning pattern. And after independence, instead of changing the the foundation of any country basically is education. So instead of us changing our education system, I think we changed a lot of other things, but we did not change our education system, and we've become so finical about marks and rote learning. Over the years, we've driven our children crazy, crazy about getting that 90%, crazy about you being the best at something. You need to know horse riding, and you need to be a good swimmer, and you need to know how to do this. I have an image in the society. My kid knows so much. And all this together, it's a lot of burden on your child. And very rarely do we really realize this, as much as these parents do speak about it. I'm telling you, I've met kids who very, very rarely say they're happy doing what they are doing right now. I think the shift from the traditional education to the, let's say, the alternative education started off when some of us, our generation parents crossed the borders and got education. I'm sorry, got educated abroad, when they learned that that's not schooling what we did in India. The schooling, the real skills were learned in the schools abroad. That's when they realized that the kids need to be developing as a whole and not be an all-rounder pressurizing them to be good at other things. And that's where the concept of unschooling, which is a very different concept and it would take me a different session to talk about, but let's talk about homeschooling. That's where homeschooling starts. um, Let me take the example of my son. Yeah, I have only one son, and like Anu said, she knows him very well. She's worked with him as well. So till the fifth grade, he was in the IB school. The IB is the Britishers' way of schooling, or the international way of schooling, where your child is encouraged to ask you questions. So you're encouraged to ask questions. You just go ahead and you research, you think the how, the when, and the whole thing. In the sixth grade, I moved him to CBSE. Now, why would I move him to CBSE? Is because at that time he gave me very strong indications and said I would like to do engineering. Everybody around us said, if it's engineering, IB won't help you. So what you really need to do is get him into a CBSE board because that will help him crack his exams. But I think that's when disaster struck in. We absolutely moved, but he just did not fit into the system because uh, here was a boy whose fundamental education told him you could ask questions, was made to sit in a classroom where he was not allowed to ask questions now. So he couldn't ask questions because if he asked questions to the teachers, it was disturbing the class. I always got, right from the sixth to the eighth grade, when till the time he was schooling, the only complaint I got was he's asking a lot of questions. He disturbs the class with his questions, and it's a very interesting, a very interesting example I'll give you here is. So one day I was called to I went very often to the principal's office, and one day when I was there, and she asked him like, why do you keep asking her? Why are you being really rude to your teacher? And I asked him the same question. I said, why are you picking on her? He said, I'm not picking on her. I just asked her a simple question that when a negative moves across the equal sign to the other side, why does it turn to a positive? If she knew the answer, she would have given it to me. She didn't know the answer. Instead of telling me that I'll find out and I'd let you know, she went around and told me that I was asking a question that was irrelevant. I could give you many, many examples like that. That's when he started losing respect because he didn't think that these people could really answer. If I have to just copy, he says I can do that, and I can do that when I'm doing it out there. He at home he says, Mom, get me a guide, I'll copy it, I'll rote learn it, and that's about it. But that's not education for him. He wasn't allowed in the breaks to go outside, and for him, he absolutely loves moving around. That's how his fundamental education. So now he was in a setup where there was no scope of thinking. It was learning. Learn what I've given you and reproduce the same on a paper, and that's how I will test your intelligence, and that's how you will be marked. No skills developed, rote learning, no time for the child to spend the way he wants to. A total rebel, my son was. Found him in the principal's office, like I said, many a times. And We reached a point when he walked up to his principal and said, okay, what, you know what, I don't think I'm doing any justice, I think I'm wasting my time. I remember her calling me to her office and telling me, he said, Sumira, today your son told me school is a waste of my time. That's the day I think we both came back home, had this really long talk, and I decided, fine, now he was in his ninth. I was, as a parent, I think I was really scared. But Anu knows my dad, and she knows that when I spoke to dad and he said, fine, go ahead, we'll figure a way out. And with his support and with my mother's support, of course, we've been homeschooling for 2 years now, and he's just given his boards. And I think we've done pretty well. So he's learned to play the guitar on his own. He's learned to play the tabla on his own. He paints, he stitches, he embroiders. He's learned to cook. He's an avid blogger. He's learned C programming, and currently he's working on a project with the homeschoolers. He's also working on a venture of his own, which he'll be launching very soon in the next 3 months. All this, and he's still given his boards. Uh, so we have to understand that schooling works for some, doesn't work for some. I'm often telling this to parents very often. What works for one person does not really need to work for the others. We need to find our own balance. I know a lot of parents say, but the Indian education works, and we keep saying that there are Indians in high position abroad. Yes, they are. But that's not just because of the Indian education. We have to agree and we have to realize it's because they completed one part of their education abroad, and that part of their education taught them life skills or skills that they needed to be prepared to go into the world. Indra Nogi, she's been such an inspiration. I've just been, reading her biography and stuff like that. And I realized the same. I said she completed a part of her education there. And she gives a lot of credit to her education there. We don't have the infrastructure in India, in our education system to upgrade our teachers. We don't give importance to our teachers. Yes, we've raised their salaries, but doesn't mean that they have been trained or upgraded. I do not see a system which says let's upgrade our teachers, because if they are upgraded, our children will get upgraded. Our teachers are still very much the bookish knowledge, and a lot of pressure on our teachers, which ultimately the receiving end is the children. We also haven't changed our syllabus for like ages. So imagine what we are studying was something what I think what my son and I studied would have been really the same. It's not really very different. Uh, let's say the Maharashtra board, SSC did a great job with changing this SSC syllabus this year. But still, it's not the comprehensive and the competitive one that we would like, to make our children be ready for the world outside. It's not that. I really wish, that the pandemic would have taught us something, that the pandemic would have taught us that content is not important. That what is important is in life is the skills that are required to survive. But what have we done? Instead, we have pushed our little ones in front of the screens, like to say, a few months of academics will be the end of our children's careers that we are so worried about, that they need to earn and they're going to make a life and career ka kya hoga. A few months, why didn't the educationists or we parents actually use this time to teach our children skills? Why didn't we really encourage them to learn our family values, tell us about our family history, connect with cousins that we haven't got time to? Instead, we told them use this time to upgrade skills. They didn't upgrade skills. What they upgraded is again content knowledge. Content absolutes every 3 years maximum. What our children are rote learning today will be absolute in the next few years. Or maybe even after the pandemic, once they begin school again, who knows? So imagine, it's really not fair that we give so much importance to rote learning. Over the last 2 years as a homeschooling parent, my journey has been very challenging, more than what I expected it to be. So, as a single working parent, I have juggled between work and my son's schedule. I have taken him along with me to my training sessions because I'm a trainer. Um, and it worked out pretty well. I was very skeptical when I started it, but it worked out pretty well actually. We went in, he made friends with college students who in turn turned around to be quite an inspiration for him, So now he's got ideas of what. So the campus that we visited was MIT. MIT has like around 13 institutes in that one campus, and he had the time to go visit all the 13 institutes, get a feel of it. Walked up to some of the HODs and said, I would like to do this. Will you help me build up my drone? And they've been so nice and welcoming, and he's been able to do all of that. The whole point of understanding homeschooling is that we homeschooling is not building a mini school at home. So you don't start at 7 and you don't have 30 minutes of classes, and your child is not the only student in a classroom that is being led by you. You're not the principal, vice principal, teacher, and everything in that school. Uh, but having said that, it doesn't also mean that it is a life without any rules either. So in our house, we start our day at 4:30 a.m. That's not out of compulsion, really. It's because he's an early riser, I'm an early riser, so we both like waking up early. It's beautiful if you wake up early. So by 10, it feels like we've achieved so much. But then that's not the rule for all the days, yeah? There are some days when we achieve so much academically. And then there are some days when we just don't do anything. We just listen to music early in the morning. We're painting early in the morning. I remember a week last time we just chatted for 2 days in a row. We just didn't want to do anything. And that's okay. That's okay. That's the beauty of homeschooling. So academics is done generally in the morning part of the day, and as a rule made by my son, he does not study in the evening. I mean, in entire 10th he hasn't studied in the evening except for the month when his boards were going on. But that's okay. We have a fixed amount of studies that need to be completed for that entire week. And if he misses out on a day, well, I'm okay with it. But as long as on a Friday he can complete all of that, otherwise he misses his weekends. So it's not like homeschooling is without rules. What needs to be done, but you have a freedom to work out your schedule. Now I see that he's very good at making his schedule. He knows, okay, I'm gonna watch this movie right now, but this means this is going to be remaining. And he's managed it, and there are days we fall very badly on our faces. There are weeks we fall in pathetically on our face. Let's say like when the pandemic started and he just given his boards for 2 months, 3 months actually, I should say, he just lay flat and said, I'm not doing anything. And I let him do it. And I let him do it because they knew that he's just finished his boards. But then when we started off in June, we said, okay, now can we spend some time in the day? Also, a point over here to be noted is if he plans not to do anything, doesn't mean it's gadget time. So the initial time of our homeschooling was very challenging for us because if I don't want to do academics and if I don't want to study, which means I can be on my phone and I can be on the television, that's not how it works. So what happens is you get gadget time. There is a fixed amount of television time. There is a fixed amount of gadget time. And once you have that gadget time, well, the rest of the time, I'm sorry, that doesn't work. You can do anything. We've had 3 days in a row where he's just slept it out to tell me that I don't have anything to do. I'm going to sleep. And I've let him sleep. Trust me, it's not easy as a mother. You're trying to, it's here, it's agitating. You want to wake him up, you want to lecture him. But I've learned to be more calm. I've learned to say, fine, you want to sleep it out, sleep it out, sleep it out. I don't care. But then the third day, how much can he sleep? He wakes up, he does find a schedule for himself. So like, he wanted to play basketball. He went twice a day. Of course, this was before the pandemic. He played in the morning with the seniors. He played in the evening with his own age group. So imagine the kind of people he's met. He's met people in different walks of life, walked into their office, understood their careers, their friends. Today, his friend circle is people from across ages. It's not just those 25, 30 people in his classroom for the next 10 years. It's a whole bunch of different, and he still has his friends from school. Um, I can't say it's been a piece of cake as a parent because I had to turn my entire work schedule, keeping him in the center. But over the 2 years, we found our balance. He has met a lot of people. He spent a lot of time with his grandparents, learned a lot of skills with him, like the cooking and the stitching part of it. I wish I could show you some. He's been making phone covers and actually stitching them, which I think is a very important skill that we forget and we don't give too much importance to because it is all the mental health of the experts here will agree this does a lot to your brains. And surprisingly, he came up to me last week and said, we can say, you know what, I think my brains work best, my brains work best when I am actually, stitching on the machine. So there you go. We've done a lot of road trips. We did one road trip which was from Pune to down south, 1,000 kilometers one way, just the two of us. We absolutely loved it. We realized we don't have to go only in the holidays, so we go off season. We get better deals. We're happy about the entire thing, and now he's got very good planning. So there is nothing that I need to look into. He will look in for hotels, and he will look at for places to stop at. That one trip has taught him that there is only so many hours of driving that we can do. So now he knows how to, map it out and small little details. Um, so alternate education is all about meeting people across age groups. It's not about just the thing. And content is not only found in textbooks. It's something we as parents and educationists need to understand. You do not live your life in a maths, science, history, and geography. You live your life as a whole, and that's what I find missing with our education system. We are teaching subjects in isolation. I need to learn a math, and I need to learn a history. I need to learn an English, and I need to learn a geography. If your child knows how to learn, I guess he can learn anything. After the pandemic and the way we're seeing the world going, I don't think any of our education sections, boards, with your ICSE, CBSE, SSE, any state board, is prepared for coding, because coding is the next thing. Are we really are we really planning? Are we making our children think on those lines? Are we pushing our children that way? I really don't think so. I haven't seen it so far. What will stay with our children are skills, and that's what our education system is lacking, and that's what we homeschooling parents are really focusing on. While it's great to see my son while he speaks about a business venture, he wants to start it off in the next couple of months. He hasn't given up on the fact that he wants to be a robotic engineer. Now, this is what I find interesting. And like the other day, I was surprised. I thought he'd say, because I'm going to start on money, I don't want to do an education. He said, no, ma, I want to do this business because I'd like to make money. But being an robotic engineer is what I like to do, and is what I really want to do. Is at the core of my heart. Is what I want to be. Now, this is what an education needs to be. I don't know if he's going to be a robotic engineer. I don't know how much he's going to score in his case. That's a wait and watch. But that's the freedom I got for him, and he realized he got for himself while we were, homeschooling. So you have to realize that it's given us the freedom to find a method to learn which worked for us, but we kept in line with the academic curriculum of traditional schooling. So I'm not against traditional schooling. I'm not saying we can live in isolation, but we found a parallel path. I think I've spoken a lot, so I'm going to just end by saying, giving my all-time favorite example that I read a couple of years ago. It says, let's not judge a fish on its flying skills and a bird on its swimming skills, and then let them both believe for the rest of their life that they're not good enough. As parents, we need to realize we don't own our children, and our children don't define us. We are who we are, and they will be who they are, or who they choose to be. They're proud of us no matter who we are. And if they don't compare us saying that you're just a teacher, or if you're just this thing, and so parent is a doctor, if they are not comparing us, then I don't think that we need to compare them to anybody else's child. And I think this is where I will end. I know.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's a very refreshing new insight into everything. And if you have any questions, you can type into the box, into the chat box, or we could wait with the questions right at the end
I
when
think that would be
the
nice.
speakers have spoken, and so that you'll have more enriching experience, because we have other two people who've been in education and they have their own insights, and it'll be
Yeah.
very interesting to watch what their insights are. Some of them you will agree with, some of them will be contradictory to whatever your beliefs are, and that's okay. Different systems, different
Yeah.
opinions, not okay.
Absolutely.
Everything has its value. Nobody's saying this is bad and this is good. This is
No,
what
absolutely not.
this is
Absolutely
what
not.
worked for her. And this is what worked for her son. And,
Yes.
and you know what? There are not many parents who would risk doing what you did. So I
Absolutely.
really, really acknowledge that you went out of the way and you learned how to teach him.
Yeah.
You learned how to be involved with him.
Yeah.
And right now, he's not just getting education, he's probably getting a lot of you. So that by itself is
100%.
connection and
Yeah.
bonding and hating and loving each other. Thank you so much. Over to the
Yeah.
next speaker, Sheetal Kapoor.
Thank you. I'm waiting.
Yes. All of you can put down your questions in the chat box and we will ask questions right at the end. Sheetal, good evening bolo, good night bolo, kya bolo?
good good night bologe to I'll drop dead here only.
No. That will be dangerous. That will be dangerous. So Sheetal is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for more than 30 years now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we went to college together, and she was one of the quietest person that I ever knew. Standing in one corner, and I think I was very jumpy in front of her. And yeah, I loved her quietness. In fact, I loved her depth that she had, and she still has. She's a very very deep person and someone that I have connected myself with in all these years. We actually never meet, and if we meet, we sit down and laugh, and we can start our life from wherever we have stopped. So we don't ask each other awkward questions. We just sit down, have a cup of tea, pizza, whatever, and then laugh over it. And such is life. So she is my childhood friend. She is somebody who, and very few people I've connected like this. I don't know how many people I've connected to like this. So thank you so much for being just you. Thank you so much for being that soft, nice person. So Sheetal, over to you. You're going to be talking about the impact of the virtual education that is happening today. So just go ahead and talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anu. It's always a pleasure to come on board. My only problem or the only block that I have, otherwise I would have loved to be in each and every of your talks, but
Time.
the twine shall never meet. The timings don't. You begin when my day is over.
Absolutely. I apologize for that.
No,
But
no, not at
so
all.
many night
At all.
birds that I
As
just
as we just said that there's nothing right, there's nothing wrong.
absolutely.
What works for somebody
I
doesn't.
could never get up even today. Raaz ki baat ye hai, even today I get up at 11:30. By the way, guys, I don't can't sleep till 4:30.
मेरा तो आधा दिन खत्म हो जाता है.
Exactly. So now you know that they can be people at different time zones, functioning differently, and yet they can be friends, and they can be very
Absolutely.
effective friends. Yes.
Absolutely.
Over to you,
Uh,
Shri, completely.
in fact,
The stage is
thank you,
yours.
Anu. Before I begin with what I am intending